Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Good afternoon, listeners. It's a lovely day here in suburban Chicago. The temperature is in the low 50s, which makes for a lovely walk home until you remember that it's February and it should be like in the 30s or the 20s, and you'll lament the state of the world. Nonetheless, you can have a pleasant walk home and talk about board games with your friends, which is what I'm doing right now. So as I roll into season 7 or approach season 7, I don't know if I think of this as season 7 yet or not. I think I'm gonna just think of once I hit episode 600, then we'll start season 7. So this is still the end of season 6, it's just running extra long. So as I move toward that, I'm working my way through the backlog of new games I played in December that I didn't get a chance to talk about yet before I went on my winter hiatus. And there are a couple that I skipped before the last Board Game Espresso episode because they were all just like little tastes. Such small games that there's hardly anything to talk about. But I still want to mention them to you. So in that regard, today's episode is a Board Game Espresso coffee flight. I am going to talk about 5 games instead of 3, and they're all just sort of little nibbles. You'll just get a little shot of espresso, a little taste of a different kind of coffee with each episode, with each game I'm talking about. They're even shorter than my first impressions reviews, just because there's not a lot to them. Nonetheless, here we go. So the first one is a game I played called Trophies. Trophies was published in 2019, designed by Travis Hancock and Holly Hancock, art by Holly Hancock and Sarah Keeley, and published by The Board Game Company, which I think was just an independent publisher created to publish this particular game. So in Trophies, it is a party game, a judge-style party game, in which one player is being the judge, and all the other players are being the answerers. And it's sort of like a combination of Taboo and Categories. The part that you're borrowing from Taboo is one person speaking and other people trying to answer quickly, although you're not playing in teams. The part you're borrowing from Categories is the idea of a category and a letter. So basically the way it works is you have a series of cards with letters on them and a series of cards with categories on them. And you pull a category and pull a letter. I don't know if the category cards have letters on the back. I don't exactly recall. But you pull a category and you pull a letter, and then the first person to say something that fits the letter and fits the category wins the card. So if you think about it as like in Categories, you roll a die and there's a series of prompts and you have to come up with an answer for each prompt that starts with the letter you rolled. This is the same thing, except instead of trying not to match the other person's answer, you're trying to be the first one to shout it out. If you're the first one to shout it out and the judge decides that your answer fits the category, then they give you the card. If they say you don't fit the category, then they can move on to the next person and so on. At the end, the person who got the most cards wins. On the back of the card is a little picture of a trophy, which is why the game's called Trophies. This is a cute little party game. I'm not sure that it's worth seeking out. It's fun, if you were to find it or somebody said, hey, let's play this. It's fun. I don't know that it's better than Categories or Taboo, but a good time nonetheless. That's Trophies. All right. The next game I want to talk about is Smug Owls. In Smug Owls, each player gets a bunch of clue cards, sort of like in Cards Against Humanity or Apples to Apples. And the deck is full of riddle cards, which have sort of open-ended answers, and they have the style of like old-time riddles or questions that should have a riddly kind of answer. And so what happens is the riddle card is laid out, and everybody looks at their hand of cards and they pick a couple cards to go together to make an answer, and they slap those down on the table. Once all but one player have picked an answer, then that player who's left is the Smug Owl and gets to decide whose answer is the best answer. It is, just a variant of Apples to Apples. It's fine. It's got cute owls on different cards, which is, I picked it up because it was called Smug Owls, and I like that. But, and I like the twist of an answer to a riddle. That's a slightly different kind of mindset than something like Apples to Apples. But ultimately, I'm not a huge fan of judge games that don't have any creativity, and picking 2 cards is the minimum of creativity. So it's fun, but ultimately forgettable. That said, I did buy a copy. So that's from Mike Belsold and Grace Kensall. The art, I presume the person who drew the Smug Owls is Kevin Ruel, and it was published by Runaway Parade Games in 2023. Next up we have Pretense. Pretense is a meta party game. My son asked for this for Christmas after seeing, I think, a TikTok about it maybe, or an ad for it. And it turned out it was out of print, so I couldn't get it for him, and I tricked him. I said, oh, it looks like it's out of print. I'll have to find something else for you. Or I said, it looks like it's out of print. I can't buy it from the publisher. And he said, oh, okay. Meanwhile, I went on eBay and I ordered it. Ha! Tricked him. So I did give it to him. Like I said, it's a meta party game. So the way it works is you have a group of people at a game night, and at the beginning of the night, they each get a pretense card, which gives them a secret role of something they're trying to do at the party. And ideally, for fairness, you review what all the different roles are, so everybody kind of knows what's possible. Or you could go in blind and have nobody know. And maybe the person who owns the game wouldn't play. But then over the course of the evening, everybody is trying to figure out who has which role. And so most of the roles have some activity, something that's supposed to happen. Like if you can get someone to read out of the rule book or hand you the rule book is one of them, or give you some food. Those are a couple ways. If you complete the thing on your card, then you declare that you completed it. You steal the card from the person that you got tricked with it, which means that you have to do it to someone else who's still in the game. And then you take their role. They're not allowed to say what role you have. They're out of the game. They can't guess anymore. It keeps going like that, sort of like Assassin or something, where you're stealing each other's roles and winnowing down to one player winning, or the person who got the most by the end of the night. You can also call out somebody if you are still in the game and you think someone else is trying to, like I say, hey, can you hand me that rule book? And you're like, no, because I think you're the rule book handing person, which I can't remember what the game calls the rule book handing person, but there's like a role, like the rules lawyer, I think. If you accuse somebody of being one of the roles, then they show you their role card. If they're correct, you steal their role card. You still have your role, they're out. If you're wrong, then you forfeit your role card to them and they keep their role card and continue on. Or I think maybe they can choose, I don't remember exactly. Either way, like coup, for example, like in coup, if you only had one life, if you challenge somebody and you're wrong, you're out. In concept, pretense is really fun. In reality, the roles are either way too hard to achieve or way too easy to achieve. So in practice, it wasn't as much fun as we thought it was. There were a number of roles that were just like, we shouldn't even include that one in there, but I'm sure we'll try it again sometime. It was a fun experiment, and I'm sure it'll be fun to play again at some point. So that's Pretense from Jason Tagmeyer and Alderac Entertainment Group. All right, next up this is a game I got. My in-laws visited, did they visit England? My in-laws visited somewhere. I didn't think it was England, but now I'm feeling like it was England. Anyway, my in-laws visited, and they had found for me on their travels a copy of the classic British pub game, Shut the Box. Now, Shut the Box, like I said, it's been around a long time. I guess it was introduced in 1750. And basically the way it works is it's a wooden box, and it's got a little horizontal bar inside. And on the bar are 9 pegs, or 9 little tiles that swivel up. You can sort of swivel them up or knock them down. When they're up, you can read them. They read 1 through 9. The game comes with 2 dice, and what you do on your turn is you roll the dice, and then you can either you add the dice together. You can knock down 1 or 2 tiles that add up to the value that you rolled. Once you've knocked down everything below or above 6, then you only roll 1 die. And the goal is to keep rolling until you can't knock down any more tiles. So there's a tiny bit of choice in terms of which combination of tiles you knock down, but there's also a ton of luck, right? If you only have the 2 and the 4 left and you roll a 3, well, you're done. And then the way the game works is you're trying to knock down as many tiles as you can. Once you can't knock down any tiles on your turn, then the tiles that are left, read from left to right, is your score. So if you have the 2 and the 4 left standing, your score is 24. If you have the 1 and the 9 standing, your score is 19. If you have the 1, 4, 8, and 9, your score is 1,489. It's a ridiculous scoring system that's really fun because you can have these wildly differing scores. You know, I had 364 and I had 1,289 or something. Or you could even have, I've even had games where I had like 5 tiles still up when I lost, in which case then you have a score in the tens of thousands. It's funny and amusing. It's been around a long time. It's called Shut the Box. I mean, it's nothing to write home about, but sometimes my son and I will use it if we have like 10 minutes before we have to leave for something, or 5 minutes before we have to leave for something, or we're waiting for everybody to be ready to go out the door. We'll just play a round of Shut the Box. Next up is That's a Question. That's a Question is the 2017 follow-up from Vlada Chvátil to his mind-bending, world-ending success Codenames, which I think was 2016 or 2015. In That's a Question, Chvátil returns to the party game sphere with the idea of trying to have people ask questions and then vote on what other people are going to say. On your turn, you're going to pick from a number of cards that you have. There's 3 different kinds of prompts, and then you're going to choose cards from your hand to create a question. And it would be an A or B question usually, and everybody votes A or B, depending how they think the person who's asking the question is going to answer it. Then you get points based on who voted correctly about how the person asking the question would answer it. It's a pretty simple party game. There's a couple other elements as well. There's a triple your score. If you're really sure, you can play that once. There's a little scoring track. It's squirrel themed for some reason, but it's really unclear why. As a party game, it's fine. Like most of the ones in today's thing, I'm sort of reviewing games that are amusing, but probably not worth writing home about. I enjoyed That's a Question, and I'm glad I picked it up for $2 from Goodwill. I don't think I would want to pick it up for $20, but it was a good time nonetheless. That's a Question. So, that is 5 simple party games that I've played recently. Oh, there's one last one. I don't think I talked about this yet. The last one is a game I've seen in a number of places. This is Tapple. Tapple is a very simple party game where you have a gizmo in the center of the table that is a circle, and it's got a series of letters around the edge. On your turn, or at the beginning of the round, somebody is going to flip a card that reveals a category, and then you go around like in the classic folk party game, and everybody is going to say an answer that starts with a different letter but meets the obligation of the category. And then when they say the answer, they are going to hit the button on the edge of the circle that matches the letter they just said, and then they hit the button in the middle to reset the timer. Then the next player goes. You keep going until somebody takes too long. If they take too long and the timer buzzes, they're out. Or if all the letters run out, then you continue that way as well. Tapple's, it's a fun little party game. It's a great like opener or closer. There's not a lot to it, but it's amusing, and you should try it if you get a chance. Well, that's the last of the simple, quick bite games. I hope you enjoyed this flight of coffee or flight of espresso today. What simple games do you enjoy? Head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share them in the forums there. Beyond that, thank you for joining me on my walk today. I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.